Tuesdays into Wednesdays. This is your WrestleZone wrap-up for a Tuesday into a Wednesday, covering the brand that is making Smashville smash. They're still in the greater Tennessee region. Taping out of a studio, making it work with some very fun, ridiculous stuff in Wrestler's Court this week, and a big world title match, one people think could be on pay-per-view, with Rich Swann taking on Ken Shamrock. Fun in-ring action, some ridiculousness with some fresh faces, or fresh for Impact from WWE. A former NWA Women's Champion popped up. The Knockout Tag Team Tournament, and so much more. I'm Kev Kelm. Joining me, Central Pennsylvania. Is that the region that you're in there, Bill Pritchard of WrestleZone.com? Or you're in Massachusetts, aren't you?
Southeast Pennsylvania.
Southeast Pennsylvania. It's the Mid-Atlantic. All right, I'm just going for the territory now. All right, working the old Sunshine State, Robert DeFelice.
Yeah.
So a pretty ridiculous episode, both in Wrestler's Court and a little bit in the ring. There was some ridiculousness and some fun stuff here. I'm enjoying the tone. I do think Impact is trying to make the best of the situation with no fans there, though there are times when it does feel like the bumps in the ring are a little bit more resonating to the silence of no one being present. Are you able to adapt to this, Bill? Are you able to get used to no fans being there? WWE has the Thunderdome. AEW has Daly's Place. There's Capitol Wrestling Center as well. There is always this feel that Impact needs a little something, in comparison to everybody else.
Okay, so I have two answers. I'm used to it.
Okay, I am a little bit used to it, but there was a couple times where I was like, oh, I wish, especially for Ken Shamrock in this main event.
It's Impact's, like, they've kind of made it their signature for better or for worse. And I would love to have just some kind of ambient noise, whether it's like, I don't necessarily need like crowd noise piped in. I'm not saying like go over the top with the bells and whistles, but just something, because wrestling needs a soundtrack. Like any good movie needs a soundtrack. Like, and that's really what I can say about it. It just it needs a little spice. What do you think, DeFelice?
Yeah, they've needed spice for a while, but at this point, they're just going to keep it. And it is what it is, and it's fine. As long as the action in the ring is good and they can still compel me with their characters, I'm good with whatever they bring.
Outside of action in the ring, we had a slightly different voice on color commentary this week. You heard him on WWE for many, many years. He was in ring with the ECW brand of WWE. Josh Matthews, joined by Matt Stryker. Matt Stryker made a Sidney Powell reference. If you don't know who she is the somewhat ludicrous lawyer for the president at the moment.
She's not the lawyer for the president anymore.
Yeah, not the lawyer for the president anymore.
She was when it was taped.
Yes, at one point she was spouting off conspiracy theories on national television, and you guys can follow everything with the president of the United States, who's also a wrestling character in his own right. So that was an odd thing that Stryker always wants to do. He always wants to get into these like very unique references and everything like that.
That wasn't his best one. He said, people say making the deal with the devil could be a lot of things, like losing third-party partnerships, and you can make that decision for yourself after, what was it?
Yeah.
Perazo and Kimberly were like, hey, Father James Mitchell, we need your help. And he just took the chance to bring up the third-party issue. So
there were a lot of inside references. Wrestler's Court was almost an entire joke on those later on in the night. We'll talk about that. They continue to have I think they continue to have the most comedy of any televised wrestling show every week now. That's what Impact's going for. But we have the Knockouts Tag Team Title Tournament. This is building up to a pay-per-view payoff of the finals of this, bringing back these women's tag belts. Kiera Hogan, Tasha Steelz taking on the Sea Stars of Demi Exo and Ashley Vox. Now, Robert, you were high on the Sea Stars in this match, who constantly had references by Matt Stryker to them as kind of fish puns or aquatic animal puns. They had a valiant effort. I enjoyed some of this match. Did feel it went a little bit too long. From the entrance and the get-go, Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan look like badass superstars, and they came out of this looking like badass superstars with the big win. Bill, what do you think of the Knockouts tournament? Sea Stars sent packing, Steelz and Hogan going up the ranks.
I'm going to step away and just let Robert rant.
Okay, all right. So let's imagine for a second that we've actually picked up 2 hot young independent stars for this tag team division that we're growing.
Yes.
And then we just go right off the bat, all right, you're out of the tournament. You could have built the tournament around them. You should want new talent coming in. This is a hot division. You're rebuilding a division that I don't know if many people were asking for with this tag team tournament, but now they're here and they're interested. You could have easily said, look what we got. We got the C-Stars. AEW can't say that. WWE can't say that. And you let them go. You caught the big fish and you let it go.
That's another fish pun. Look at that.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the bait was there, but you just threw it back in the lake.
Really, this should have been like a semifinals match. They should have at least won a match on this company, because that's another thing I will talk about in a little bit. Killer Kelly also making her debut lost. I understand wanting to make stars out of the people who have put pen to paper for you, but like, you need new stars. You need to present the idea that you are a growing brand that is still signing major independent names, and I think you missed a big opportunity with this.
Bill, what do you think of the Knockouts tournament overall? Robert, you were high on this new team coming in, and I wouldn't say they got squashed. They weren't completely squashed, but they were definitely made to look like rookies coming into this match, and Steels and Hogan's put the boots to them. Bill, what do you think of this? What is the overall projection of this? There is no I mean, Steels and Hogan, I think, were a favorite team in this, but as Robert said, he thought they were going to do something new. Doesn't seem like they want to do much new stuff. Seems like they want to stick to the acts that they have in-house.
So I agree with him to an extent in that this should have been a semifinals match. It shouldn't have been an open round match. But I think you have to look at the positive that, you know, they're taping multiple shows at a time. So I think there's evidence, if you want to say it is that they'll be back. I mean, I don't think they're bringing a team in for a one and done appearance in a pandemic. I mean, I hope they're not, but I think we'll see
AEW
them.
Dark. What are you talking about there? Come on now.
Different show.
Come on, another inside wrestling fans only know it reference. That was half of this televised wrestling show. You know what I mean? If you weren't a wrestling fan and you tuned into the show, I think there was a lot that you wouldn't be able to like.
No, it just
grab on.
Different argument, different time. But, no, I think they're gonna be back at some point. I mean, whether it's like they present it as a consolation match or some kind of way to put them back on TV. I mean, I think I think they have to, and yeah, like why would you bring in a team like that and just kind of feed them to the wolves, so to speak? Like, you have people on the roster. You could have just done like a makeshift tag team, like Havoc and Nevaeh and Tasha and Kiera were really the two established teams. So it's not like I expected them to lose the match. It's just look at the other side of it, where you have an established team coming in and people aren't too familiar with them as far as impact. So make them look a little better, and hopefully they are presented in a better light outside of the tournament in the future.
Well, the tournament is definitely going to have some outside faces, because we thought, they're going to bring in these C-Stars who had some hype coming in, got fed to the wolves, but I don't think they're going to do that with somebody else. It is argued that she is one of the toughest women to ever lace up the boots. Former NWA Women's Champion, former WWE Superstar, Jazz, was presented in a backstage segment. She will be Jordynne Grace's tag team partner in this. Jordynne Grace, one of the toughest women in wrestling, maybe one of the strongest performers in all of wrestling right now. And they've been talking about this for weeks. She's going to be in this tournament, but we don't know who she's going to team with. She can do it to Neil Dashwood. Neil Dashwood wants to be an Instagram model, not so much really wrestle, and all these different things. And now it's definitely a switch. Everything about Jazz is very serious. She is a smash mouth wrestler. And Jordynne is very powerful. So it's an interesting tonal shift from a lot of goofy backstage stuff that Impact is doing recently, with some of the women too, to go and say Jazz is in this tournament. It adds a lot of seriousness to it. it does make me anticipate the match when they get in there. Are they going to be there? Is their tournament match next week then with Jazz and Jordan Grace? So I'm into that. I'm definitely into that, you know, and
so here's what they did right. We just talked about what they kind of did wrong with the Sea Stars. Here's what they did right this week. Their matches against Killer Kelly and Renee and Michelle next week. I don't think anybody is really expecting Jordan Grace and Jazz to lose, especially how much they've hyped this up.
No.
But they established Killer Kelly and Renee Michelle this week in their own outside tournament match. So, you know, they gave them TV time to let people become familiar with them, especially if they're not WWE fans. And, you know, I just feel like this was a good transition for us to talk about because it's what they should have done with the Sea Stars. I'm looking forward to the match, even though I think Jordan and Jazz are going to win no matter what. I don't think it's going to be like a squash or anything, but I mean, this is the way that you should set up all of your performers in a tournament.
You mentioned it already, Robert. Also in action recently with NXT UK division there. Now seeing her pop up here in Impact. She took on Kimberly, Deonna Purrazzo's kind of ringside henchman. Kimberly, an NXT product of her own in the past. But Killer Kelly coming over here. This is a fresh start for her. She didn't come out in the end. They're really just sticking with Deonna Purrazzo and Kimber in her corner against Susie, a childlike character who turns into Sue Young. This is Impact's kind of version of The Fiend, but with a female character. The match was almost a second-class thing to a post-show segment. Killer Kelly didn't win. I don't know what this favors this does for her. It doesn't look like she's going to win next week. It's kind of odd that they're having somebody come in here and kind of eat a lot of service to the presence. Doesn't seem like they have a high ranking on her, though. I think Killer Kelly can become a really, really big star. I thought she was something big for NXT UK. I do think it is something that maybe, you know, this happens in wrestling. Some people get lost in the cracks of everything. And in a year like this, I think that's going to happen a little bit more. You're going to notice that a little bit more as we come out of the pandemic. Oh, they didn't do anything with that guy. And I mean that across the board. So I think that's kind of the spot that she's in here. But tell me about this post-show segment, Robert. This was Impact trying to do TV chicanery shenanigans. Susie comes out and says, "My friend is very angry with you, my friend." This felt way too like a Bray Wyatt Fiend thing. Susie Young comes out, attacks Deonna Purrazzo and Kimberly. She walks back up the ramp. She turns her face towards the entranceway. So Susie, her innocent incarnation, and her evil incarnation are on the stage at the same time, but they're never shot at the same. I don't know. It didn't strike me as a big thing. I get what they're going for, but the note wasn't hit, right?
I'm going to disagree with you completely. I thought this was This is one of the best things on the show because I
didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but I was just like, it's just off a little bit because they did this with Rohit earlier in the night as well in terms of just like a little bit. They were trying to do some TV magic stuff here.
Well, but this one's completely magic because I had to ask Bill. I said they are the same person because I was legitimately like, they did that far too quickly. How did they shoot this? So that Susie and Sue Young are on the stage at the same time. Maybe there's a twin involved. I don't know. This was cool. I think that this has a quick shelf life. Maybe they end at a hard to kill in like a, what do they call those, monster ball matches or something. Mm-hmm. But this has a very short shelf life. And I'm interested to see Deonna go in there with like a Jazz. Maybe even Jazz. Can we get Jazz to stick around until like Slammiversary? That'd be nice, you know. Also, speaking of, I kind of wonder maybe Jazz loses next week, and maybe one of their big hooks for the pay-per-view is Jazz versus Jordan Grace.
I think that Bill, he's got an idea there. I think that's a little bit more interesting than Jazz and Jordan Grace going for the tag titles. I think that's a featured match. That's a clash of generations. You got me on the hook there. What do you think of the whole situation with the women here in Impact right now?
I think they're in a great position. I mean, trying to finish talking about the Sue Young stuff. Like, I'm in the same boat. Like, however they shot that and put it together, like, that seems so seamless that I was very
It just there was a bit of it that was clunky when she was getting on the ramp. You know, I'm not saying I hated it. I get what they were going for. You know, because I've seen other companies do the same type of thing, just other TV shows as well.
I feel like other shows haven't done it as well as that. Like that was really seamless, and it's not something where I want them to tell us how the sausage is made, but I just want to express my appreciation for that. I thought it came off really well, and then I think Jordan and Jazz is a fantastic match. I don't think they're winning the tournament. I think they might be in the finals, but I think that would be a great match to put on Hard to Kill. Like you have Deanna defending the title, the tag title finals, and Jordan and Jazz on a pay-per-view card. Like those are 3 awesome matches, ultra talented. They have build, like months of build, and women's wrestling fans should be happy because you're getting 3 huge matches. They're not just throwing women's matches on the card just to be like, oh yeah, here. Like we're pushing, like, no, like these have actual thought and effort put into them. So yeah, I definitely kind of hope they go that way. Jazz is getting her retirement tour that I think she told Chris Van Vliet that she had one planned. So maybe this is the first step in that, retirement tour.
Reminder, Impact Wrestling is still doing the on their own streaming service, then on traditional pay-per-view kind of roll here. They'll final resolution on December 12th. That'll be a week after NXT TakeOver on the WWE Network, so at least you get a week of difference between these specials. And then following up January 16th, they'll be back on traditional pay-per-view with Hard to Kill. So that's kind of the next 2 major premium events that they're building up to with weekly television. Let's get into the ridiculousness of Wrestler's Court. Who shot Johnny Bravo? This is the all-encompassing Dallas Who Shot JR storyline that they've been doing on Impact. This is glow. This is ridiculousness. This is a lot of Johnny Swinger, their character that constantly references 80s wrestling culture. Everyone is daddy. Everyone it gets first name, then daddy. He revealed that he had a literal smoking gun in his fanny pack last week. This is the dream child of Tommy Dreamer. It feels like it's sitting in cars with people in ECW back in the day, talking the gimmicks. If you're a wrestling fan and you read wrestling books and listen to wrestling podcasts, this could work. I can see where this wouldn't work for a casual fan, but seems so utterly ridiculous. And everything about this is ridiculous. And there are a lot of jokes in this. WWE did a Wrestler's Court thing on SmackDown a few months ago, and that's how Miz got the Money in the Bank briefcase. I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was quite funny. I think these are shows that should be on Network and Impact Plus. You can do this idea of arguments between wrestlers, so people know of it. They did a lot of jokes. They had people swearing and taking the oath on the PWI 500. You had Johnny Swinger made a reference to Jerry McDevitt, the WWF lawyer, saying, I have to wear this neck brace because it will give you sympathy because that's what Vince did in 1994 at a steroid trial. These are things I had to Google before we went on the show. But they were funny. What do you think of Wrestler's Court? They reveal that Larry D did the dirty deed. And of course, Johnny Bravo in his whole hospital gown came out, and Tommy Dreamer had to tug on his catheter cord to get him to shut up. Bill, this was ridiculous. This was fun. Maybe one segment too many, but still, I enjoyed this. Some of the stuff they've been doing, this whole angle has been too much. This has been fun. What did you think of it?
I think they knew it was the right time to end it. It couldn't have gone on much longer. Like we joked about, picking off people one by one, but I think overall, the Wrestler's Court was funny, and
it weaved in a lot of characters.
You
had a lot of people involved in this storyline. So I'll give them this. This is long-term booking that involved like at least a dozen mid-card characters, and all gave them like comedically consequential actions. This reminded me of like something of like the way that you see AEW try to take the comedy angles of being the elite and put them on Dynamite, and it just feels like out of place. This was seamless. Like there was always like a sense of stay tuned for the next funny thing we're going to do backstage. And guess what? They were funny. Like the jokes hit, as a comedy person, the jokes hit here if you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah. And I think, they genuinely had like a surprising payoff.
Mhm.
Like if you go back and really want to break it down, like I don't know how Larry D would have been in position to shoot him. Like if you want to be like a forensics expert,
We're bringing in forensics.
but as far as seriously, like
I know, but
watch them
it's such a
watch them do
ridiculous
it next
thing,
week. Watch them be like, Larry said he shot him, but actually there was 2 shooters, or like some
Yes,
grassy knoll
Yes,
stuff.
they will do. There was a second gunman.
But like if you actually go back and think about it, like they did fight in Wrestle House over like Rosemary, I believe, or somebody. Like I remember that being like one of the early beefs in Wrestle House. Like they had a feud over like that.
It had to be Rosemary because that is why he shot him, supposedly.
For some reason I want to say, or no, the was it the Deaners and XXL fought over the beer? Who drank the beer too?
Maybe, yeah.
So they fought too, but it was like they set those things up, and I wonder if they knew in advance they were going to do like who shot Bravo, or if they just went back and were like, you know what? Here's what makes sense. Like everybody's going to say it's James Mitchell, everybody's going to say it's Rosemary. Here we swerved them, and
I didn't know I was going to find out which wrestler was a virgin in this entire thing.
Well, so no, but that was so like that. You messaged me about that, but like that was the whole bit. Was that like, hey, he's virgin?
That's why she was marrying him.
I understand, but it was still ridiculous. It also like some of this is like I don't think WWE could even try and do this because there's a lot of politically incorrect things that we're doing in this. And
they shouldn't want. Hold on, you shouldn't want to do this. This is clearly like we're taking advantage of circumstances beyond our control. But it's not like this is a sought after angle here.
Robert, you don't seem like you're a fan of Wrestlers Court.
Well, I was a fan of the segment, but I just want to pump the brakes before you say, well, WWE couldn't do this. Well, I don't know if they would want to.
I don't think they'd want to. Who was I talking? I was talking to Effie a few weeks ago. Like they dip their toe into the water with everything.
Yes.
And then they go, dive headfirst into some really dumb stuff, whether it's successful or not. But like Impact really is just kind of like, all right, let's do it and kind of see what the reaction is. And then they kind of have to see it all the way through because they tape weeks of content. So
yeah, and that's the thing.
This just happened to work.
Also, you're doing this without organic crowd reactions too. So you're doing this with like the completely isolated sense of it's just us. Like, so I don't know. I enjoyed it. If this was something that was just on Impact Plus by itself, I would have enjoyed watching this and laughing at it by itself, and if they did like a hypercut of all this together, it'd be fun to watch online in some way. So, and good on them for just getting a bunch of different people involved in one angle with an ending, and it felt like even everyone having their little role meant something. It reminded me of a great movie. I can't remember the name of it. It's like one of my favorite movies to watch with my grandparents. It's A Mad, Mad World. It's this movie. It's this big ensemble movie where there's no central like main star. There's a couple central players, but there's no main star, and it's everyone going towards this one endpoint of finding this thing. Go seek out that movie. It really reminded me of that, and there was a lot of different things you've seen in the past. The People's Court, they were that in the Dallas stuff. There was a lot of fun things in this. I enjoyed it. Back in the ring, Rohit Raju's Defeat Rohit challenge saw Suicide, a masked wrestler, come out that we've seen perform. A wrestler who came from a video game. I don't know if you know that because Josh Matthews said it. And this is revealed to be Crazy Steve. Of course, TJP has performed at Suicide in the past, so he thought this was TJP. Fine match. A lot of Memphis rolling around, grab a hole, get some heat, high spots into different things. I enjoyed it. It was an interesting match. Interesting that Crazy Steve gets the win here. What's the direction they're going here? Raju is an over heel. This is a guy who's able to get his heat while there is no fans there. I can agree with you. He's connecting on that way. When you look at Impact Online, he's a guy that people want to see lose this belt, but he finds a way to keep winning the belt. I enjoy it. Robert, what do you think?
I'm going to beat this drum. I love Impact Wrestling. Let me back up real quick. I've been watching them from their second Wednesday night pay-per-view in 2002. Like, I've been watching this company for 18 years. Please get rid of the X Division titles. Please. It serves no purpose. There is no X Division. Nobody is Extreme anymore. It is not 2005. Okay, everybody's doing suicide dives across the board. So, like, get rid of this division. Just get rid of it completely. I mean, for real, like, this is just what I think it's time to do.
You wanted to.
That's all right.
Even the kids can't
have it.
The kids hate the X Division.
The kids,
the Pritchard girls want to come in and say, "Dad, screw the X Division." They've been sitting under the learning tree with Bill Pritchard, and they're like, "Dad, they need to develop new stars." That's what
that is right.
They're slamming doors. This is ridiculous. They're so happy the Sea Stars got knocked out of the tournament. They're so mad.
But like that's kind of where I'm at with it. Like TJP is fine. Rohit Raju is good. But this title belt serves no purpose in the year 2020. When's the last time they did an Ultimate X match? Can anybody tell me?
Good point.
Want to say
they did one
last year, Bound for Glory?
No, they did one.
That was a ladder match.
Yeah, they did one like a few years ago. Like
they did the one in Rahway. The one that Ace Austin won.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
that was for WrestleMania season, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Wrestle Pro.
But like that was the last show. That was the last big X Division match. I think. Hey, it's just time. Like the Suicide character, Josh Matthews, came from a video game. That video game was released 12 years ago, 2008. But like this video game was released 12 years ago. Let's get rid of this. Like we're not TNA, but we're clinging to TNA for some reason. But don't associate us with that. I think it's time for a complete overhaul. Give Brian Myers his belt. Let him make it the television championship or whatever you want to call it. And, like, let's move on.
What do you think? Should they drop the belt, Bill?
I am totally on board with them rebranding as, like, a TV title. I
wouldn't be against that idea. Or at least, I don't know. I'm not saying I think Rohit's done a lot with it, though. I'll say that in terms of that circumstance. Like, he's used it to get his heat and to make him a guy that you want to see lose, and he finds a way to win. Now he lost today. It was non-title. They specified that beforehand, right? So I mean, but he's a guy where he reminds me of The Miz in a way, where he's so functional with it. But almost at some point, it's like, is the title getting any service out of that? Does he need it any more than he's got from it? I don't know. I could go for a title change. Is TJP the guy to do that? I don't know at this point. I do have some question mark. I'm not completely off on it, but I'm not completely sold either. Is that fair to say? Like it's one of those middle of the road things. Like Wrestlers Court on this show, we'll talk about the title match with Swann and Shamrock here in a minute. Those were things that were definitely hits with me. This was like a question mark. I enjoy him. I get him in the ring with TJP and let's have a real match for this title. They've done
several.
I know, but I mean, like you mentioned you mentioned the gimmicks and different things like that for the X Division. If you're going to blow out this title and do something different and reprogram it, do one of those big ladder matches. Do one of those extreme things to end this. Let's sweep it under the rug and go somewhere else, as you're mentioning. That's what I'm saying. Like, let's close this program out. It's been going on a little bit too long on the tooth for me.
Speaking of great things in the X Division, Alex Shelley is 100% again, and he's ready to go. I love Alex Shelley. I want to see him and Chris Sabin in AEW, at least for a one-off, by the end of this year, so that Alex Shelley can say that he's competed in every major promotion inside of the calendar year. And I think he is one of the most unsung wrestlers of the last decade.
I agree with you. I want to say last year sometime, I had an interview with him that we did through Ring of Honor, Bill. And I was just amazed at the just wealth of knowledge. And it was supposed to be like 15 minutes. We went like a half an hour. And he was just kidding. No, I don't mind talking. He's a guy who had a very unique path recently in wrestling. Left wrestling for years to get into the medical field and said, once I got a certain level of education, I was going to come back and do the rest of my wrestling career. Very odd way of doing things. But he's always kind of chosen his own path, even though he's so tied to Chris Sabin and the Motor City Machine Guns, one of the best tag teams the last 20 years. And I'll say this, Impact is a hell of a tag team division right now. They have a very, very strong tag team division. We mentioned it with the Knockouts women's, where they're trying to develop those teams, but they have some like defined teams that all seemingly have purpose. And the North is certainly involved in a situation here with the Good Brothers. Doc Gallows on the shelf 4 to 6 weeks. They're laughing about it backstage, and the laughter once again found its way into the ring. Because who did Carl Anderson bring out to defend the honor of the Good Brothers in their Talkin' Shopomania comedy camp against the North? It was SWOGGLE, as if he was AJ Styles. He had the AJ gloves on. He had the AJ pants on. He was doing the spinning back fist. They went for the Styles clash, and SWOGGLE bit him in the leg, and SWOGGLE defeats Ethan Page. This was entertaining. This was right up Ethan Page's alley, and right up SWOGGLE's alley. Bill, what did you think of this? This was fun and ridiculous, almost like Wrestler's Court was.
It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. I even said it was going to be SWOGGLE last week, just because if you're not familiar with it, that was a running gag that, SWOGGLE looked like AJ because of his hair, and they played up on it somewhere, whether it was a Major Brothers show or a live event, but they've definitely played up on it before. So I kind of figured this was where they were going, but I think they knocked it out of the park and did way better than I thought they were going to. I thought it was just going to be okay, your opponent's actually SWOGGLE, but he had the ring gear, he had some of the moves, they did the theme song, they killed it.
Yeah, and this was one of those things where it's in terms of production and let's give it all of the nuance. And SWOGGLE is one of those guys, he knows how to frame all this stuff and time it for camera, and that came off flawlessly. I really enjoyed this. SWOGGLE is an underrated guy in his position and the things that they have him do. I think he's one of those guys that will go down as one of the better, more remembered comedic complimentary characters in wrestling in the last 20, 30 years. Main event, Rich Swann defending the gold against Ken Shamrock. This is a big match. You're getting Hall of Famer Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man, in a world title match on TV. This is another one of those don't sleep on Impact scenarios where you get something special on TV. I thought this was a fine match. Wouldn't call it the best match I've seen on TV this week. Ken Shamrock continues to defy Father Time. Does he move as fast as he once did? No. Does he still look very, very dangerous in the ring? He can hurt people? 100%. And I think that was kind of evident here. Swann able to get out of this guillotine choke, flips it into a roll-up pin, and he escapes Ken Shamrock, not really defeats him. And afterwards, Sami Callihan, the mind-manipulating evil genius who has hacked Impact Wrestling, gets in the ring to attack him with a bat and also attack Eddie Edwards to save the day. We got gimmicked show blood that did not look like real blood when Eddie Edwards got bashed open. D'Lo Brown, I almost said TNA, the Impact official, to kind of clear the ring with security. He gets knocked out by Ken Shamrock. What is the direction with Rich Swann in the world title? We also have Chris Bay talking trash backstage with Rich Swann earlier in the show. Wild stuff here in the main event. Multiple people involved. Seems almost like a more serious version of what they're doing with Wrestler's Court. Multiple players, one single prize. What do you think of the world title scene right now in Impact, Bill?
I'm honestly surprised. I'm happily surprised that they're pushing Swann as much as they are. I thought the Eric Young program was really good, and I thought putting Shamrock against him was a really good option. I thought maybe Shamrock might actually win and it might be a transitional run, but I kind of like where they're going with this. They're going back to the Sammy and Eddie thing, and they kind of put a new spin on it where it's not just the baseball bat shot that happened.
They needed that because the infamous angle they did where it was supposed to be a baseball shot thing, and he was going to hit a chair and it would hit his face. He hit him with a baseball bat in the head, and that became this big thing. And Sammy so gracefully made that I don't care if I hurt him, and it was that is it real, is it not type stuff. So they had to do something with the baseball bat. But I do agree with you; they're going in a different direction with Shamrock being involved, and he adds a different factor to it. Robert, do you think they're going to the welt one too many times with Eddie Edwards and Sami Callihan here? Does it overshadow Rich Swann as the world champion here?
There's no nice way to say this. A lot of things are going to overshadow Rich Swann as the World Heavyweight Champion because I think that that's a character that hasn't reached that level yet in the minds of fans. You can never.
He can have the matches, but is he a character? That's a great point.
Yeah, like you can never go to the well too many times with Sami and Eddie because Sami and Eddie are like two guys that, for whatever reason, have decided I am Impact till death. I am Impact loyal. It's a good feud. Where are they going next with Rich Swann? Chris Bay at Final Resolution. Moose at Hard to Kill. I think Moose finally, after like 5 years, gets this world title at Hard to Kill.
It seems like a pretty fair scenario. Moose was in the background saying you just hold a paper title. I have the real title. He has the TNA World Championship. It was one of the confusing things they had to do there earlier this year with the whole Tessa Blanchard situation. Multiple players, a lot of pieces. I do think Swann doesn't feel like the biggest star in the company, but I don't think any one person is the biggest star in the company. It does feel like this is an ensemble performance to really cover the idea that we don't have the superstar. We have a lot of talent, but we don't have the guy or the gal here right now. Good on Impact. Enjoyed this show. It flew by. Really, really liked it. You got to seek out Impact right now. What is the turnover bill on terms of episodes on Impact Plus? Because I know for a lot of people, I like it, but I don't have access to TV. But I keep asking this. I watch some things on Impact Plus. But what is it, like less than a few weeks or something like that in terms of when you get it on TV, when you can actually watch the episodes, right?
I think it's down to 7 days.
It's not bad,
right?
Yeah.
It might be even less now. I know they kind of narrowed it down once they went to Twitch. When they went to Twitch and the Access simulcast, I know that they said that it used to be like 10 or 14 days, and I think now it's like 7.
So that's not too bad, especially for international fans. I know there's a lot of people listening to the podcast. They're like, hey, what's going on with it? I don't have it in my country or something like that. So, and also Access TV, there is a lot of distribution with them, or catch up on YouTube. This is a good time, I think, for a lot of fans. Like, I don't want to watch the whole show. What should I check out? Definitely seek out Swann and Shamrock if you're looking for clips. The Wrestlers Court stuff was genuinely funny. If you like being the elite, if you like those inside jokes on all the different wrestling podcasts, this is your type of show. That's what they were trying to do, and I think they did it well. This is a thumbs up episode on the old 1 to 10 scale. I give this week's Impact, I give it a solid 8. This was a fun show, some fun matches, good development overall. Not the best show I've ever seen. But in terms of wrestling in a pandemic, I think this is just another sign of people adapting and trying to do the best they can. Robert, the 1 to 10, where are you landing with this week's Impact?
I am going to say it's probably like a 7. Like for TNA, it's a very good show. Sorry, that's just
don't worry. That old habit's pretty hard,
Impact, it's just a good show. Like they are doing some great stuff, and I'm enjoying it.
Bill?
9. I thought this, and I said this yesterday, I thought this was one of, if not the best episodes they've done from Nashville so far. I thought the in-ring work is always good. It's easier to point out when there's a bad match, which doesn't happen much. But I thought between the payoff with SWOGGLE, the payoff with Wrestlers Court, the James Mitchell stuff, like all of the backstage stuff really, hit the nail on the head this time. So I thought it was a really great episode, and I give it a 9. Not perfect, but almost there.
All right, a sweep of the stories that we're covering right now at WrestleZone.com just to check on these here. Some fun stories to follow up. Xavier Woods has really created himself his own niche online with the Up, Up, Down YouTube channel. WWE deeply invested in that. Of course, has ingratiated himself in internet gaming culture and has made this campaign. Robert, I know you're involved in gaming. I loved G4. I came up with this being on when I was in high school and college. I loved this show. I really am very, very happy that he just got the news. He's going to be a part of the relaunch of G4. Don't know exactly where that's going to air. Some people theorize it'll be a part of the Peacock streaming service or NBC Universal, but nothing is confirmed, just a complete theory. But he is going to be a part of this. They announced this with the G4 reunion special they did online recently.
So I can share this now because the embargo's gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some photos and stuff from that I can share from the reunion special. Shout out to Alex Santamaria, who kind of helped me get that. He's also a big gamer, and we kind of knew about the G4 thing. But yeah, awesome news for Woods, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. I mean, he campaigned for it and he got it. So
yeah, good on him. And this is the right time for, I think, a G4 like that to come back. In terms of a brand that people of a certain age gravitate to it. It's internet heavy. It's the right. Am I wrong about that, Robert? Is this the wrong time to bring it back? I think it's the right time.
This is the perfect time to bring it back. I think gaming lost a huge chunk of itself this year when E3 was shut down because of the pandemic. G4 personally is one of the fondest memories of my teenage years. Like Adam Sessler, Morgan Webb, Attack of the Show.
Attack of the Show, dude. That was like afternoon. That was appointment television.
Yeah,
Attack of the Show.
This was so fun, and I am so glad that Woods is going to be part of it. Austin Creed has worked his ass off to get this gaming crossover, and he's doing it. Like, the cool thing about this is seeing the third-party stuff pay off. Woods is doing the thing. Cardona and Myers doing the thing with the action figures. This is great. This is great for wrestling. This is great for gaming. I'm excited. I hope it's an actual TV channel, but I guess we'll see where it goes.
Seem like they're going in that.
Nothing seems like it's going in that direction, but I can dream. I understand.
And good on the fans for getting behind him, because it definitely seems like NBC Universal and the G4 team kind of saw that and knew he was the right guy for this. He's done similar things like this for WWE. They've sent him to E3 before. He has the Up Up Down channel. Talk about just a guy who's really paved his own path and within WWE. I think he's a guy who's going to have a career with WWE for a very, very long time. So good on him for that. Other news that we're covering here at WrestleZone. Definitely wanted to bring this up. We are following the New Japan Best of the Super Juniors and World Tag League. Ross Berman covering that. I do think it is worth noting as we talk about more fans coming back to wrestling. New Japan Pro Wrestling had 72,000 fans come and check out their events over the course of a few months. They were happy to brag about that. They are setting the course of the upcoming Wrestle Kingdom events at Tokyo Dome in early January. And of course, we have other news outside of AEW and WWE. That's all people kind of revolve around. That's why we're happy to do this Impact show every week. I've had some great responses to it. A lot of you guys listening to this, kind of catching up on Impact. Maybe you're not watching it, but I'll listen to the show and do that. All right, well, this is a great way to do it. Outside of the major companies, the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, made a soft announcement. I've heard some people call this a soft announcement. I don't know if it's a huge announcement of a new TV show called SHOCKWAVE. Bill, tell me about SHOCKWAVE.
You know as much as I do.
Okay.
It's called SHOCKWAVE.
It is called SHOCKWAVE.
So it's called SHOCKWAVE. It's spelled properly. It's not like power.
SHOCKWAVE.
This
there's gonna be like 9 A's.
Bill, you stole my band. Get one of the Pritchard girls to come in here and
I don't know how I feel about this. I think Power was great. I don't care if they couldn't get the same exact studio. You own the banners and stuff. You couldn't just do Power again. It's because it seems like another relaunch. And since the last 5 years, I think the National Wrestling Alliance has relaunched 10 times. It feels like, just let it.
And Power was so fun and had such a defined aesthetic and feel to it. It felt like an old school 70s, 80s throwback studio wrestling show. And it was effective in that. And there were so many fans who were old school fans that I talked to that were in their 40s or 50s, or even newer fans that were discovering that stuff on the network and liked the idea of new wrestlers presenting that style. And I talked to wrestlers who really enjoyed working that style, where it was like short TV matches and still having an indie feel to it. I do think they lose something by losing power, because it was something that they created and developed on their own. But as we note, Dave Lagana was one of the main producers of the company. He gets booted out with allegations of some serious misconduct. I get the circumstances. And also you can throw in the pandemic and everything like that as well that kind of overrides this. They still have a lot of the talent. NWA talent has recently been on both AEW Dynamite and the UWN primetime live streams. Saw multiple title changes for the NWA National Championship, Tag Team titles, and Women's Championship. Only the World Champion, Nick Aldis, still retains his NWA title. So a lot of shifting there, and a lot of big names from the NWA that are still under some form of agreement or contract will appear on the show. Nick Aldis, Thunder Rosa, Eli Drake, Aaron Stevens, Camille, and many, many more to be featured. Bill, this is, as you mentioned, another reboot for them, but they have the names. They have the names that they've already developed. That's a pretty strong roster right there of a handful of people who build.
Do they though?
Yeah,
Hold on, Kevin.
I'm reading what we have.
I love Kevin Kellum. Kevin Kellum is a great hype man. He's the guy you want at the bar as your wingman. But my God, do they have the names, Kevin? They've got Nick Aldis. They've got Aaron Stevens. Who else is actually contracted?
They have the names from Power. If you enjoyed Power and you want to follow them over to this,
but how many
part of the
do they
audience
actually have?
What?
They lost a lot of them.
True, but I mean,
Ricky Dice is on his way out. Ricky Starks is a major time player in all of wrestling now. They don't have what they have. You know,
he's in AEW. I wouldn't call him a major player, and I love Ricky Starks,
but he's getting there.
Yeah. That's the other show we could talk about.
I love how the Impact show becomes everything non-WWE.
It's just AEW. And it's not a knock on NWA and the people that are still there, but it's like, who is there? Like, Nick Aldis is there. Zicky Dice is on his way out. Thunder Rosa is there, but I mean,
it could be argued that she's on her way out.
For how long? Their women's champion is in AEW contracted talent. Their tag team champions are, they've been together for like a week. Aaron Stevens and JR Kratos.
Yes.
Okay.
So like Kratos was, I don't know if he was a last minute thing, if that was like a decision made in advance, but it's Nick as the world champion and Aaron Stevens, and they don't really have a roster. Like, that's why I'm thinking this show's really just going to be championship wrestling from Hollywood, but NWA graphics and stuff. Like, they don't have a full roster to like, it's not going to be NWA Power. It's not the same thing. It's 8 months difference where so many of these names that they established as their top stars are gone. So I think it's going to be another situation where you have to wait and see what the NWA is actually going to be. And that's not knocking them. It's just honest, like, feedback. Like, you don't know what they're going to be, and it's wait and see.
Definitely. And a lot of wrestling right now is wait and see as we go into 2021. We are continuing to follow the developing situation of how the wrestling world is responding to COVID-19. There is positivity. There is vaccines. The questions we get every single day, Bill, is when is wrestling going to be back in front of fans? What is going on with WrestleMania? Listen, as those things happen, keep your eye on WrestleZone.com. We have all of the news in one place from verified sources. We have it all there. All right. So definitely bookmark the site, subscribe to the podcast as well. Hours of quality wrestling content for you. We have the WrestleZone wrap-ups, multiple episodes every week. We did a big Survivor Series post show this week, breaking down The Undertaker's final farewell that many of you enjoyed. We have the Raw post show. We did a really, really fun one. Robert and I did 80 minutes yesterday with a lot of fun question and answer sessions about what's going on with wrestling overall. We're very interactive. We're having a lot of fun. So if you want to join in these live streams, make sure you put your reminders on YouTube, on Facebook, or just go and subscribe to the podcast feeds. You can listen to it whenever you want on any podcast app that you want. Thank you all to the listeners following the show now in Australia. We continue to grow there. We really, really appreciate that. And Ozzy, oi, oi, oi. Enjoy the new AC/DC album. We're trying to have some fun and add something to your experience. You're at home. Maybe you're going on a walk. Keeping that mask on. We're going to get through this whole thing. We're going to have a whole lot of wrestling content for you to enjoy. Robert, I'm going to pitch to, should I pitch to you or should I pitch Bill? Do you want the sign off? Who do I pitch to for the sign off?
I'll do the sign off.
You'll do this.
I would like to plug a few things before we leave.
Go ahead.
First off, the new AC/DC album's awesome.
It is great. It's a fun one if you like AC/DC. Yeah.
It has a few toe tappers. Check out our interview I'm going to be posting in a few hours with Sam Adonis. Heroes of Lucha Libre is on Crackle today. He's one of the performers that is in the cast, and I just talked to him about the show, what he has going on. That's a real fun conversation. That'll be up later. And then I caught this when we signed on. It's Josh Matthews' birthday, so happy birthday, Josh Matthews. And you saw me giggling before because I caught Don Callis's response.
What did Don Callis say?
So Impact posted just happy birthday to the voice of Impact Wrestling, real Josh Matthews, Don Callis. It's awesome when you turn 12.
Jesus.
So that was the reason, like, you guys were talking about something serious, and I'm like sitting there like
Bill, you've been hitting out of the park with interviews recently. I've had a lot of fans tell me about the Young Bucks interview we did last week and how much they enjoyed that and the kind of allusions that they brought to the whole scenario with Shaquille O'Neal, the NBA, NWA, too many and those. But Shaq doing something big with AEW. We're going to find out soon. Maybe we find out more tonight in the next day or so. Robert, we know you were busy across the wrestling world. You know, we get weekday custody of Robert, Bill. All right, we get weekday custody, and then we drop him off at his divorced dad, his stepdad's house or something like that on the weekends. Robert, what do you got going on, buddy?
I got SmartGuyMoment.com. We're going to be doing a feature called One More Match, The Undertaker, today. That'll be up later today on the YouTube channel for Smart Guy Moment. I'm going to be doing the Wednesday Night War podcast later tonight with Alex Pulowski and Sean Ross Sapp over on the Fightful YouTube channel. And then other than that, I'm here in the zone Tuesday through Friday and over on Fightful doing the news Friday through Sunday. And that's really all I got going on.
It's easier to ask when your time off is.
Monday.
Right?
Monday.
I get like 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon, and I enjoy it.
It's so exciting when I'm off. It's like, yeah.
Bill said that like that one episode of The Simpsons. He's like, I get maybe a few hours just for rocking on a Saturday.
I do. It's like, oh, okay. I don't have to watch wrestling from about 12:30 to 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and then everything else is wall-to-wall coverage, and it's like, and then I still find myself covering wrestling somehow. So
I've lost count of the amount of times the new lady friend is asking, "Wait, so this is your job?" I was like, "Yeah, like I gotta know who won the big match last night," and she's like, but it's your job. Like she just keeps saying, like, this is your. I was like, yeah, it legitimately is.
That's, you know what? That only makes it harder sometimes, because then it's like, but are you really working? And they don't understand that you're working around the clock.
I don't think you understand. We need to find out who shot Johnny Bravo. Okay,
yeah,
so, like, exactly. All right, so. If you come to WrestleZone, we're always going to give you fun content, the most legit news, fun. All right, everything going on in the world, we want to give you a whole lot of fun and all the information you want to know when you want to get it. So thank you for supporting what we're doing. Thank you to Tyler Treese, Dominic D'Angelo, Alex Santamaria, John Clark, Colin Tessier, all the boys of the Zone. Thank you so much. Mr. Bill Pritchard, when watching wrestling, what are you supposed to actually do?